Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron, and we are back here with Against the Odds. This is episode 8, I believe, and after being on the poll since the very first episode of Against the Odds, Tainted Remedy, always coming in second place, finally pulled it out. Number one vote getter this week, 26% of the vote. So finally, for you Tainted Remedy fans, you get your wish. You get to see Tainted Remedy Against the Odds. As far as the rest of the voting, Zada in Modern, the Hedron Grinder, got 24%. Part the Water Veil came in at 21%. Those two will be back next week. Dropping off the ballot, we have Void Winnower at 16% and Epic Struggle taking up the Legacy slot and coming in last place. I don't know what it is with Against the Odds viewers. Apparently you guys do not like Legacy. No matter what Legacy option I put on there, seems like it comes in last place, but that is neither here nor there. Anyway, this week we are all about the Tainted Remedy. So, a short story before we break down the deck. When I put Tainted Remedy on the Against the Odds poll, so remember, we're in episode 8, that was in episode 1, that was 2 months ago I first put it on there, and at that point we had Congregate in Standard, we had these weird lifelink spells in Standard. The point is, there were a lot of ways to make Tainted Remedy work. I don't know if I don't think it still would have been good, but at least there were a lot of cards. So, because we hold over the second and third place vote getters, Tainted Remedy got grandfathered into the ballot for the new standard, and when I went to actually go build the deck, I realized that all of the cards that I was planning on using with Tainted Remedy were no longer part of standard, so we had to get really creative to give this deck any chance of working, and I think it might be one of the jankiest. It might be the jankiest Against the Odds deck of all time. So this is what we got going on. Of course, 4 copies of Tainted Remedy if an opponent would gain life. Instead, that player loses that much life. So with this card, our goal has to be to make our opponents gain life. Sometimes we get some nice fringe benefits if someone has a Soulfire Grandmaster or other lifelink creatures. But most of the time, for us to actually kill our opponent, we're going to have to force them to gain life. So for a minute, stop and think, how many cards in Standard do you think there are that can make not just you, but either player or your opponent gain life? Well, let me give you a hint. There are a grand total of two cards that can make your opponent gain life. So we have 4 copies of Healing Hands. This is our burn spell. 2 and a white. Target player gains 4 life, draw a card. So with a Tainted Remedy on the battlefield, this is basically the greatest burn spell of all time. 4 damage for only 3 mana, and it doesn't even cost a card. On the other hand, when we don't have a Tainted Remedy, it doesn't do a whole lot. And now the jank. We are getting to the jank. 4 copies of Butcher's Glee, 2 and a black, instant. Target creature gets +3/+0, gains lifelink, and it regenerates. So with Butcher's Glee, we can throw this on an opponent's creature that's attacking or blocking, which makes our opponent gain life, and with Tainted Remedy on the battlefield, causes them to lose life. So those are our ways of killing our opponent with Tainted Remedy. 4 Healing Hands and 4 Butcher's Glee. That's all we got. So we have to make do with those cards and try to reuse those cards as much as possible, which means we have 4 copies of Den Protector. I'm sure you know what it does. One of the most played cards in Standard, but that is there to get our Healing Hands and Butcher's Glee back from the graveyard. Then we're going big. 4 copies of Green Warden of Murasa. Green Warden of Murasa, basically a double Den Protector, or a double Eternal Witness. 6 mana, 5/4. When it enters the battlefield, you get to return something. When it dies, you get to return something from your graveyard, but then you have to exile Green Warden. So we have 6 ways to get back our Butcher's Glee and our Healing Hands. Then our other creature, we have 4 copies of Erishan Cleric. So 1/3 for 2 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. So part of the problem is, since half of our ways of winning the game are Butcher's Glee, which give opponents' creatures lifelink and requires them to deal damage, we need to be ahead of our opponent in life when we're doing this, or else if we're at 6 life and our opponent's at 8 life, and we put a Butcher's Glee on a Siege Rhino, our opponent would drop to 1 life, but we would die in the process. So Erishan Cleric is to try to keep us ahead of life so we can use our Butcher's Glee without dying. And then the rest of the deck is basically either removal spells to help us survive long enough to fire off our 8 cards that really matter, or a couple of ways to find our Tainted Remedies. So we have 2 Silk Wraps, we have 2 Ruinous Pass. This lets us get rid of a creature or a planeswalker at sorcery speed for 3 mana, 2 Dark Petitions. The sweet thing about Dark Petition is it costs 5 mana, but if we have Spell Mastery, we add 3 mana. So with 2 spells in our graveyard, like those removal spells we were talking about, we can cast Dark Petition, search up Tainted Remedy, and if you notice, Tainted Remedy costs 3 mana and a black mana, so we can use the mana from Dark Petition to just tutor and put Tainted Remedy right on the battlefield. So that's the reason it's in the deck. And then we have 2 Murderous Cuts, just some more removal, and 1 Obnixilis Reignited. It's another way to draw through our deck, maybe destroy a creature. But really, the plan is we get a Tainted Remedy on the battlefield, maybe by using a Dark Petition if we have to. Then we kill our opponents with Healing Hands, our 4 damage burn spell, and by giving their creatures lifelink with Butcher's Glee. And since we only have 8 copies of these cards altogether, we have the 4 Den Protectors and 4 Green Wardens to get them back. So that is the idea of the deck. As far as lands, not too exciting. 2 Canopy Vista, 4 Flooded Strand. It's basically a typical Abzan mana base. 2 Forests, 2 Llanowar Wastes, a Plains, 4 Shambling Vents, a Smoldering Marsh, a Sunken Hollow. It might seem weird to have these off-colored lands in our deck, but those are for fetching purposes. This is a black source that can be searched for by Flooded Strand, and this is a black source that can be searched for by Wooded Foothills, so that's why we have those off-color slow lands in our deck. A Swamp, 3 Windswept Heaths, and 4 Wooded Foothills. So altogether, we have 11 fetches, we have 4 slow lands, a full set of Shambling Vents, and a couple Pain lands to go along with our basics. Sideboard-wise, 4 Duress for the control matchups, Self-Inflicted Wound to take down Siege Rhinos, some more Silk Wraps for aggro matchups, Surge of Righteousness, great way to get rid of a Thunderbreak Regent or Mantis Rider, Ultimate Price for mono red decks or landfall decks, Languishes, also against anything aggro-y, and 1 copy of Dragonlord Damoka, can fight against counterspells. Also, I mentioned how we need to try to stay ahead in life. Because of how Butcher's Glee works, it's a good way to stay ahead in life. So that's the deck. As far as the odds of this working, I think it's pretty slim. Like I said before, this might be the jankiest against the odds of all time, thanks to rotation, but we are going to try it. I think we might win maybe 1 out of every 6 or 7 games, somewhere in that range. So definitely under 20%, maybe under 15% as well. So we'll see. Hopefully it's at least fun. I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. My main worry, of course, is just we don't have very many spells that can interact with our Tainted Remedy. Just the Healing Hands and Butcher's Glee, so only having 2 spells that really interact well makes the whole thing a little bit questionable, because we're relying hard on those Den Protectors and those Green Wardens to get back our good spells. But I don't know. Hopefully it's fun. Don't forget, mtggoldfish.com, decks, the metagame, prices, everything you could want for Magic the Gathering. Check it out. It supports all the videos and all my articles and tons of other great content. Well, enjoy the videos, and I will talk to you all soon.